Our next topic for the day is the rise of women in technology. To share some insights on this interesting topic, we have Ms. Aruna Rao. Ms. Rao is Advisor, Technology Strategy at Kotak Bank Limited. In this role, she assists the bank identifies and prioritize potential game-changing technology to adopt and leverage. Ms. Rao is a director on the board of Global Technology Products Organization with an over 30 years of experience in leading, mentoring, and growing in the IT industry. To moderate this session, along with Ms. Rao, we have Mr. Pratik Roy, who is passionate about enabling people, businesses, and organizations to grow. He has over 8 years of experience in HR consulting, business partnering, employer branding, recruitment, and employee relationships spread across South Asia and Australia.
All right. Welcome, everyone. My guest for the session today is Ms. Aruna Rao, and we're going to talk about the rise of women in technology. Before I invite Aruna, I mean, it's really apt that I kind of take some time to introduce a 3-decade-long career in technology for a women in technology with all of you. So Ms. Aruna Rao is leading, so she's been, as I mentioned, for 30 years in the industry. She's been leading, mentoring, and helping people grow in the IT industry, and is right now the advisor for technology strategy to Kotak Bank. In this particular role, she assists the bank identify, prioritize, and implement potentially game-changing technology. Currently, she's engaged in designing use cases for leveraging AI/ML, implementing big data solutions, leveraging cloud infrastructure, and in providing direction on cybersecurity related technology. Before Kotak Mahindra Bank, Ms. Aruna has worked with Citi. She's worked with Polaris. She has a BSc degree from St. Xavier's College, Ahmedabad, and an MBA from University of Maryland, US. As I mentioned, it's my extreme privilege to have Ms. Aruna on board. Hi, Aruna.
Yes, good morning, Pratik. Thank you for inviting me to this session here today. It's my pleasure to be here to speak to all the women in technology. About myself, I think I'll talk about aspects of my career as we go along, rather than, I think you've already given me a wide introduction. So I will pick up pieces from my career, as it sort of becomes more relevant as we go through our discussion today.
Sure. So Aruna, I mean, as I mentioned, why are we talking about this specifically as compared to men in tech? Because it can be, I would say, taken in the same breath as everyone else.
Right. I think if you're asking about whether we should look at women in tech differently from men in tech, I think the picture tends to change depending at what level you're looking at within an organization. If you look at an entry stage, or even before that, as women are going through education, I think it's a fairly level playing field. And there are fairly high percentages of women in science in educational institutes, either in BSc or in engineering lines. And even at entry levels in IT firms, there are fairly large number of women joining. The gender ratio is not 1:1, but fairly high. I mean, I would say 30–40%.
Correct.
Quite often, right? Which is pretty good. And compensation, grades, choice of assignments, all seems to be fairly equal at that stage. So I think that is the good part. But what we see is that as we go through the years, as it gets to middle management, we find that the number of women in the technology firms start to drop off. And I suspect this is true for all industries, but I've seen the technology industry, I'm speaking more specifically about that. We see that women seem to drop out of their careers, sometimes because, they get involved in marriage and, motherhood. and that takes a higher priority or a greater toll on their ability to be able to handle their professional responsibilities. Or it could even be something in the workplace which makes it difficult for them to be able to sustain their career. So we do see a number of people dropping off there. And this is something I have seen myself in my career. And sometimes organizations can stem it, they can take steps, and it works, and sometimes it doesn't. One of the good stories was when I had a young lady in my team who had a baby, and she came back to work. And within a few weeks, she came up with a resignation letter and asked to be relieved. And after talking to her and having a chat, I found out that she really wanted to work, but she couldn't do more than 4 or 5 hours a day on a regular basis. So what she needed, of course, was an opportunity to work shorter days, half days, flexi time, and things like that. So the organization had to work with her. I had to find a role that could actually be done effectively in this manner. And we had to work with HR to work out a compensation, package for the role. And it worked. I'm happy to say that, she was able to continue. And it's now almost 7-8 years. After a few years, she came back full time. And so we were able to retain her, in the organization. The company benefited because we continued to get the benefits of our experience and knowledge. And I'm sure she was, really happy as well because she was able to sustain her career. So that was a good story. But I also see for every good story, there is another one which doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
I had another situation, again, a lady in my team, she had a baby, came up and asked to be relieved. So I offered her, having gone through this experience, I told her about it and said, let's give this a try. But she was in a more difficult position and she couldn't even work a few hours a day. So she said, give me a year, let me sort of settle down, let the child get a bit older. So I did, and I didn't let her go. I called her back up after a year and said, hey, are you ready to come back? It's now a year. And she said, no, give me another 6 months. And I tried again, but obviously it was a situation where she was not able to come back. So even if the organization was making the effort, her support system at home probably did not suffice, and that didn't work. So I think that's the way it is today. It's not even across all women and all organizations, but there are opportunities to make them stay. Yeah. So that's the middle management.
Yeah, I think you made a very important point, because when we kind of try to address the entire, I would say, the ecosystem and women in technology, we do realize this is just not about the women. It's also about the support system at home, which is in-laws, which is husband, which is all of that, which in your second example came out beautifully, that probably she wanted to do everything possible, but there wasn't enough, kind of support in the background. But just as an interesting example, I mean, we are trying to, address and say that, we need to have more women in the workforce, and we are trying to identify reasons, work on those reasons and such. But if I go back to, again, my original question, that is there, I mean, and from your experience in tech specifically, from your vantage point where you see other industries, because I do see there are some industries which are even more difficult for women, like, I mean, I won't name, but there are certain industries or certain jobs which are considered to be a little more difficult. So from your vantage point, any observation around, is tech a little more, I would say, friendly, because you see higher percentage of women coming in, at least in the entry level, which is good? What are your observations
there? Well, you're asking whether it is more friendly. So I would say, well, if you talk about industries, say versus a manufacturing organization, the environment is more comfortable, right? You work in a white collar setting in organizations, and space, and usually IT organizations, large IT organizations are quite enlightened in terms of their policies and their ability to manage women's expectations and things like that. So from that perspective, it is easier. In fact, I would like to add that if once the women are able to surmount the problems that they see at mid-level, and they learn to balance some of those pressures from the home and work situation in the middle management, once they get over that at the senior management level, I would say there's very little reason to look at women in tech differently from men in tech. I mean, there are, of course, situations where specific to a person or things like that, but usually I find that organizations are businesses, right? And businesses are focused on the bottom line and on customer satisfaction and growing the business and revenues and profits. And in that scenario, it really doesn't matter whether the candidate who is the best person for a particular assignment is a woman or a man. In fact, a supervisor who assigns a task to a man, even if he is less qualified, is probably taking a risk, because if it doesn't pan out well, it's going to really reflect badly on himself. So my experience is, once they get over these hurdles at more senior levels, the sustainability of careers of women in tech improves significantly. They found their niche, this specific niche in the technology area, and they tend to do well.
Great. And good that you mentioned hurdles, because we will come to that point, which is very important, as to how, or what are those hurdles and what we can do about it. But before we go there, I think in the same breath in which you talked about how your I would say observations have been in your industry, given that you've been around in this industry for a long time, I'm pretty sure that somewhere around the 90s, the narrative would have been very different to what it is now. I wasn't working at that time, but I know from people who were working then that people still talked about diversity and women percentage, workforce numbers at that time. We're still talking about it in 2020, but there has to be some progress made, right? What has that been? Where has the momentum shifted, or has it after all?
You're making me feel like a dinosaur, but it is true. Things have changed hugely in the IT industries, and not just for women, but for all candidates. So I'm just going to take you down memory lane just a little bit to show you how things have changed. Now, and I'll give you an example of myself, which you asked earlier, right? So I didn't start my career by doing engineering in information. When I say technology, by the way, I'm talking about information system, information technology, right? IT. So I didn't start a career by doing IT engineering, because for the simple reason at that time, there was no such thing as a technology line, either in engineering or in BSc IT. There was nothing like that. There was no such educational line. So I actually graduated, as you said, undergrad in science, and then I got an MBA, and I started to work, and I was really doing market research, not on the survey side of things, but in using the computers to crunch the data, to understand where those things came from. And I got more interested in technology and computers, and I started to read up on them. After a bit, I joined a bank, and as luck would have it, I was involved in the actual upgrade of a computer system for a bank, and this was in the US. And I was chosen to be one of the people who would explain to the technology people how the bank worked, so that they could automate and upgrade those systems. And I guess that's when I got hooked, and I understood that really IT was my line. So just see how things are so different today. Today, you have young women who can come and say, okay, what do I want to do as a career? Well, I'd like to join the IT industry. There was no such thing in those days, right? After that, I went back and I got my MS in computer systems, and the rest, as they say, is history. I've got, the long career on it. So that's how things would, on the education front. But then it goes on, Pratik. There was very few career opportunities at that time, because most of the businesses were not automated, right? Very few businesses, only maybe banks, financial institutions, maybe some very large consumer organizations. But so, and even the IT firms were only a few of the very large giants that you see around today without taking names, but only those were the thing, right? Today, there is a whole gamut of opportunities, job opportunities, careers, right? Because every business is automated. In fact, in the fintech world, we know the technology is the business, right? You take a Paytm, there is no business without a Paytm mobile app. So technology is everywhere and the job opportunities are enormous. And it's not just the multiple job, but think of the roles, right? In the old days, IT was women who code, right? Today you have that role, but then you have a whole lot more as well. You have the need to do screen design for ergonomic screens. You have got business solutions, people who need technology and business mix to be able to techno-functional things. You need people in automation. You have so many other sales. Today you have so many technology products which require sales, relationship management. So it provides women and all of society opportunities to use various skills that they have to grow their careers in different ways, all related to technology. So, by the way, I was also, I am still involved in another initiative which sort of encourages and improves journalism in technology, because technology journalism also needs to be encouraged for excellence. Otherwise, what the general public sees in technology is not either accurate or well written, right? So that's another area. If you're interested in technology, you could, and you're not a person who likes to code. Well, there are other opportunities as well. Yeah. So I think things have changed a lot.
And I think that kind of gives, so the opportunities have increased, the number of companies, the adaptability. I mean, I look at things right now and I hardly can see a business which isn't dependent on tech. So definitely that has increased. And I think, as luck would have it, everyone is a part of that bandwagon. But even then, and this is, drawing to the part where, yes, there is a rise. Yes, the participation numbers are going up. There is a lot more contribution that is coming in from both the genders. But even then, the systemic problems or the age-old problems remain, which, I mean, yes, they will remain. It is a case of men and women being biologically different. But if there are ways, or if there are, I would say, methods in which we can aid this rise further, right? Looking at the future, I mean, we're talking in 2020. We've seen the entire workspace and the way people are working change dramatically this year, right? I'm sure there would be better catalysts than COVID to kind of help us in future. But what is that future? Where do you see this going? What more can we do right now? I'm just looking again from an experience point of yours, where you have seen things change. Things are changing right now at a faster pace than ever before. So where are we heading?
Right. So I think you make a very good point, Pratik. I think the change is already upon us. And I think you alluded to it a little bit when you said, the COVID introduced change, which is, of course, the most recent one being the work from home kind of model. For a long time, organizations resisted it because there was always concern about logging in securely from remote locations and the ability to collaborate when people are sitting in different locations. But when it became essential, we all quickly learned how to do this, and it has now become a fairly acceptable way of working. And that immediately opens up, I think the biggest benefit is probably to women. And again, I saw a really good example of this in my organization. Like you said, I work with technology in a bank, and banks require systems to be managed and supported 24/7. We have night shifts. And traditionally, the women were not assigned to the night shifts, or at least even if the women wanted to, the supervisors would hesitate because, of course, things like transport home at night, going home at night was always a bit of a concern. But the moment the work from home came into play, that entire barrier just evaporated, right? It was just as easy for a woman to do a technology night shift as it was for her to do a day shift. And that all of the capacity became available for all of the shifts, and the problem just disappeared. And I think that's one of the things that we will see in the future, right? The workplace becoming more flexible. From remote locations, I think moving to flexi hours is just a step away. And I suspect there'll be more employers willing to have flexible timings where you can just choose your time of work. And all of that is going to be useful for women who are probably balancing careers and families and homes and children. And I can see that benefiting them. It could actually also lead on to what we call as the gig economy, right? Where,
Right.
the gig mode of working, where organizations hire people for specific jobs rather than hiring people on as employees in the organization. And I suspect that mode of working is going to uh, be, attractive to women who do not want to make commitments of large swathes of time, and they want, like a week off here or there and things like that. So I think, first of all, I do see that the workplace is going to become more flexible. But I think there are couple of other things also one should think about. I think the job content is likely to change in the future. Like you said, there has been enormous change over the last several years, decades, and that rate of change is only going to accelerate. And a lot of what I will call mundane tasks are going to be automated. And therefore, the job content has got to become richer. People will have to be more domain knowledgeable to be able to really contribute. And I'll give you another example on this one. Recently, the bank installed natural language processing, that is voice recognition on their call centers. So
Right.
if right, a customer calls in and is greeted not by a person but a voice bot who responds to all the simple queries, the basic queries, and the call never lands at the call center's agent's desk. And the call that does land at their desk is much more complex. And the agent needs to understand banking, details of different products, interest rates, calculations, fees, a lot more knowledgeable. So I see a lot of that happening. In general, people in technology specifically will need to continually reskill themselves, upgrade their knowledge and capability because of the rate of change. So I see this as something that's going to become essential. And overall, the ability to adapt to change is going to become key. So I think your question was more specifically about what can we do about these are the changes. So what are we going to do about it? Well, of course, organizations will have to make some changes and make it more friendly for women. And if you say why should they do that? They should do it. Well, one can always say it should be done basis, equality and social fairness and things like that. But I think it's also possible to make a case for it, which is grounded in more practical reasons, like a simple financial performance improvements. Recently, KPMG did a survey, and they found that about 75% of CIOs and business heads said that there is a huge shortage of IT talent, and it is actually hindering their ability to upgrade their technology systems, and therefore enabling their firms and their businesses to be more competitive. So without that additional talent available to them, it's, eventually it's going to impact their ability to be competitive and turn out a better financial performance. And I'd like to state just one more really good study, which was done by McKinsey, who made a more direct case for it. And they said, if you take all organizations and just stack rank them based on gender gender ratio basis. And the top 25%, the top quartile of these organizations have a 15% chance of doing better financially than other industries, other organization in the same industry. So there is hardcore evidence today to say that having a more gender equal organization is going to result in an improved output.
Sure. And I think there are tons of research. The McKinsey one, which you just mentioned, has been widely quoted. Tons of research around this. But on this one, I would just probably try to kind of get your views for one final thought I had, that all the friendly policies, the fast forward of the work from home, again flexi hours, all those things are there in some shape or form in large organizations, right? People have started experimenting. These things have been going on for quite some time. However, still there is still not that, I would say, that thing of equal representation or whatever you may want to call it. So do you think this in itself will be enough going forward? Or is there something more, I would say, more from a thought process? What can organizations do? What can, apart from policies and flexi hours, which I think, is there any revolutionary thing coming up?
Okay, you are right. I think policies is something that people have been doing. I think the only thing you can do is also become more sensitive in terms of practices. Sometimes you see, unconscious biases creeping in, which you don't even know, perhaps in a hiring situation or in promotion discussions. That might be happening while all the best intentioned policies are in place. The practice may be sort of deviating from what was the intention. And there, I think one has to continuously be more sensitive, ensure that there are more women in these roles who, not as a watchdog, but because it is their, they would naturally ensure that some of these things can get kind of taken care of. So make sure that the policies translate into day-to-day practices in a more practical way. But I agree with you. There's only so much that the organizations and even the law can do. At the end of the day, there are two other parties involved, right? One, as you said, is society and families. And unless one takes the attitude that it's as important for women to have the choice, I won't say work, but have the choice about whether they want to make a career or make a homemaker. Unless that happens, I think it's going to be difficult. The moment you make a choice that, yes, you should support the women, then all the support will kick in, whether it's parents or husbands or in-laws, or all of that will happen. And I suspect, again, that will become a necessity soon for economic reasons, where, families need maybe two earners and things like that. So that is one aspect. And the last one, of course, is the woman herself, because there are always there are resources out there, and women in technology is obviously an example of what is out there for women who want to do something, right? The WiT platform sort of engages women by helping networking opportunities, by enabling them through training and so many other things. So for women who's sure that is really what she wants to do, I think the resources are there, and they need to sort of leverage those things.
Great. Wonderful. I think in a lot of ways you summarize what we are trying to do, what I would say anyone who's in the space of diversity is trying to do, and bring about that, I would say, incremental effort in terms of getting women ready to be in the workforce, be it women who are on break and otherwise. I think I'm almost at the end of the session. I would say, first of all, your conversation with us. I think you are one of those examples which are, I would say, worthy to be emulated. Being in the industry for so long, in the tech industry, at a time when it was probably the most, I would say, fashionable industry to be in, which it is right now. I think it's really remarkable. I would just like to close by giving you one, final couple of minutes to just share any message which you would like. There would be, many women right now who are aspiring for careers in tech. They're looking to start. They may be in the middle of careers. Any last word for them before we close off this session?
Yeah, I think, like I said, Pratik, in the end, it depends on the woman herself. And what I would say to all the ladies out there is, think very hard. Try to figure out what exactly is it that drives you. What is it that you want? Is it money? Is it recognition? Is it a passion to achieve something? What do you need? What do you want? And once you understand that, make that your cornerstone for making every decision as you go through your career. Because there will be lots of decisions where you have to decide whether you're going to, choose on family, or you're going to choose for your career or your job, travel related opportunities, all of that. So I think the main thing is think very hard and set your priority. That's my basic advice to the women.
I think that's a good one for anyone who's, any woman who wants to rise, not in technology but anywhere else. Thank you so much, Aruna, for taking our time and speaking with us. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with you. We wish you your continued support for the WiT platform, and thank you again for taking our time.
Thank you, Pratik, and all the best to you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aruna and Pratik.